Hey, I'm Jet, and welcome to today's EDH deck tech video. Today we're going to be building around a strong mono-black commander, Crick, son of Yawgmoth. Crick is a 2/2 creature who costs 4 colorless mana and 3 Phyrexian black mana, which can be paid by either using a swamp or by paying 2 life. It has lifelink and the abilities, for each black mana symbol in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana, and whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on Crick, son of Yawgmoth. Crick is a commander which can easily allow you to storm the board with your cards by using your life total as a resource. Not only can he help you cheat the cost of spells, but also activated abilities. What is our strategy? So our strategy for this deck is to pay life to cast spells and activate abilities, and to use our life total as a resource to either drain our opponents or swap our life totals with them. First, let's talk about the mana rocks that you might want to include in this deck. Sol Ring, Thran Dynamo, and Hedron Archive are all artifacts which only produce colorless mana, but that's okay since in most cases we don't need to worry about the black mana in our mana cost thanks to our commander. Some other cards we can include to speed up casting spells are Jet Medallion, Bantu's Monument, and Dark Ritual. Jet Medallion is an artifact that costs 2 that says black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Bantu's Monument is an artifact that costs 3 that says black creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And it also says whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This will be useful in this deck since we're going to be spending a lot of our life total to cast our spells, so this will gain us some life to mitigate that loss. Dark Ritual is an instant that costs 1 black that gives you 3 black mana in your mana pool. And if we have our commander out, we can cast the spell by playing 2 life instead, which will leave us with more mana to cast our spells with. Next, we need to keep our hands stocked up with cards. Some spells that we can use for this are Sign in Blood, Read the Bones, and Succumb to Temptations, which allow us to pay life to draw more cards. Additionally, we have Bolas's Citadel, which in this deck can cost 3 colorless mana and 6 life. Bolas's Citadel will let us cast spells off the top of our library by just paying from our life total. Even without drawing cards though, we have other ways in this deck to find the cards that we need. On its own, Diabolic Tutor isn't the most impressive card. However, in this deck we can instead pay 2 mana and 4 life to search our library for any card that we might need. Sidisi Undead Vizier is a 4/6 zombie Naga with Death Touch and Exploit. Exploit means whenever this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. When Sidisi Undead Vizier exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card and put that card into your hand. Next we have Beseech the Queen, which is a sorcery spell that lets you search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control and put it into your hand. Beseech the Queen is useful in this deck because with our commander out, you can instead pay 6 life for its cost to search your library for whatever card that you need. The last tutor that we have in this deck is Dark Petition, which is a sorcery that says search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, but it also has Spell Mastery, which means if there are 2 or more instances of sorcery cards in your graveyard, add 3 black mana to your mana pool. Next, let's take a look at some useful activated abilities that can help you get an edge over your opponents. Blood Celebrant is a 1/1 creature that has pay 1 black mana and 1 health to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. With your commander in play, this allows you to instead pay 3 life for the 1 mana, which can lead to some explosive turns. Next we have 3 demons who each cost 5 colorless and 3 black mana, but thanks to our commander we can cast them for a lot less. The first of the bunch is Pestilence Demon, which is a 7/6 with flying and has the ability to pay 1 black mana to deal 1 damage to each creature and player. This ability can be useful for taking out some of your opponent's creatures, but you have to be careful because it also deals that damage to you and the creatures that you control. Next up we have Razaketh, Foulblooded, which is an A8 flying and trample with the ability to pay 2 life to sacrifice a creature and tutor up a card. As long as you have enough life and creatures to sacrifice, Razaketh can help you search up your combo pieces to close out the game. Lastly, we have Vilis, Broker of Blood, who is an A8 flyer that has pay 1 black mana, pay 2 life, target creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn. But more importantly, it has the ability, when you lose life, draw that many cards. Since we will be losing a lot of life with this deck, this can make sure you never run out of cards to play. To be able to take advantage of these effects, we need to have plenty of extra life. Creatures who have Extort are going to be all-stars in this deck because we can pay 2 life instead of paying the Extort cost thanks to our commander. Since in a game of Commander you typically have 3 opponents, each activation of an Extort ability will net you 1 extra health. Pontiff of Blight is a powerful card in this deck because it gives all other creatures you control Extort. The more creatures you control, the more you're going to be able to drain your opponents and the more life you're going to be able to gain. Crypt Ghast is another powerful Extort creature that can allow you to double up on all the swamp mana that you'll produce. In this deck, there's other ways to gain life outside of the Extort ability. For instance, Staff of the Death Magus can gain you life anytime you cast a black spell or play a swamp. Grey Merchant of Asphodel can drain opponents and give you life equal to your devotion to black. Just with our Commander and Gary out, this can give us a ton of extra life. Lastly, we have Aetherflux Reservoir, which has whenever you cast a spell, gain 1 life for each spell you've cast before it this turn. If you play a lot of spells in one turn, this can get out of control really quickly. Next, let's look at some of the win cons that we have in this deck. First, we have Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond. With this combo, the first instance that you gain life or an opponent loses life, it will infinitely loop, eventually draining out all of your opponents. Another win con that we have in this deck is Soul Conduit, which can swap our life total with an opponent's if our life total gets too low. Then we can use another effect to finish off that opponent. The downside to using this is that it can only work on 1 opponent at a time. A third way of winning could be by using Sensei's Dividing Top, Bolas' Citadel, and Aetherflux Reservoir. With this combo, you can repeatedly play Sensei's Dividing Top off the top of your library, gaining infinite life with Aetherflux Reservoir that you can then throw back at your opponents. The last combo that we can use in this deck is Gravecrawler, Ashnod's Altar, and a way to drain out our opponent's life. Additionally, you will need to include a zombie for Gravecrawler's ability to activate, but this can be filled by a tutor like Sidisi or Vile Entomber. Next, let's take a look at the important lands that we have in this deck. Cabal Coffers and Cabal Stronghold can be useful because the majority of the lands that we have are swamps, which can add a ton of mana to our mana pool. Nykthos is good for a similar reason, because most of the permanents in our deck are not only black, but have multiple mana symbols in the cost. And that's going to be it for today's EDH Deck Tech video. The full deck list will be in the description below at moxgold.com. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, please consider liking and subscribing. It'll help me out immensely and it'll keep you updated for when new videos come out. Have a good day.